My name is Sergeant Daniel Reece. I'm 38, served over 16 years in the Army, and for the last 11, I ran logistics at Fort Mason like a ghost with a clipboard. Not the kind of job that gets medals or shout-outs at promotion ceremonies, but I was the one who made sure fuel lines never dried, food didn't spoil, and equipment didn't vanish in the desert fog. While others trained, deployed, or climbed ladders, I stayed in the shadows, making sure their boots showed up in the right size and their rations didn't skip a meal. I knew the flow of every shipment before it hit the dock, tracked every missing barcode by instinct, and if something broke, odds were I'd patched it with duct tape and silence before anyone noticed. I didn't need credit. I needed things to work. I lived 10 minutes from base in a single-story rental with no lawn and too many manuals stacked on the kitchen counter. My routine never changed. First coffee by 0500, inbox clear by C600, warehouse checks by lunch, then paperwork until the lights dimmed and the silence crept in. No selfies in uniform, no fanfare, just systems, schedules, and solving problems before they ever reach someone else's desk. I wasn't flashy, I wasn't loud, but when a convoy went out on time, or when a crisis got dodged because someone somewhere had the right part at the right hour, that was me. Behind the curtain, making sure nobody had to ask where, when, or why things fell apart. People noticed when I was late, but only because things didn't run quite right. They didn't say it, but they knew. I wasn't the face of leadership. I was the hands. I kept it all running, and I never dropped the ball. You don't get headlines for that. But deep down, I thought that mattered, that showing up every day solving what others ignored had value. Turns out, some folks only notice what's missing once it's already gone. The morning started like any other. I was halfway through updating a procurement log when Colonel Merrick walked in, cologne thick in the air, his smile stretched a little too wide. He didn't sit, didn't ask how things were going, just said his nephew Liam would be starting Monday and needed the office. I didn't say anything right away. I looked down at my desk, the same one I'd sat at for over a decade. The grain on the wood was worn smooth where my arms had rested. My coffee mug with the cracked handle, the one my sister gave me before her last deployment, sat where it always did. The chair, held together with black zip ties and habit, creaked under me like it knew this was goodbye. Liam, fresh out of some civilian logistics program, hadn't even seen live supply chains yet. But he had a name that opened doors, and apparently mine was the one that had to close. I kept my face still, just nodded and said, "Sure." The words felt like gravel in my throat. Merritt clapped my shoulder, like he'd just done me a favor. Said something about change being good and walked off, whistling. I sat there for a while, pretending to finish the report, but my screen blurred. All I could see were the dents in the filing cabinet from when we'd tried to wedge it through the old door back in 12. That memory had meant something to me. It meant nothing now. I packed 3 things, the mug, my field notebook, and a flash drive labeled DR Ops Backup. I didn't take my certificates or plaques. They'd already forgotten what they stood for. When I shut the lights, the hum of the room felt heavier than usual, like it knew I wasn't coming back. I walked out like I was grabbing lunch. No scene, no speech. Just slipped away, silent and invisible, the same way I'd worked for years. Only this time, I wasn't planning on slipping back in. There's a kind of heartbreak that doesn't shout. It just folds quietly into your gut and waits. That was me in that moment. Not angry, not loud, just empty. Like a man watching someone toss out a puzzle he spent his whole life putting together. I didn't cry, I didn't even curse. I just kept walking, because deep down, I already knew. They didn't fire me, but they'd made it clear I no longer belonged, and that was enough. I didn't make a sound when I left. No long goodbyes, no drawn-out stares down the hallway. Just the soft creak of my old chair as I stood, zip ties holding its spine together like mine after too many years of quiet wait. The desk looked smaller once I'd cleared it. I took the mug, the one stained at the bottom from 1,000 early mornings. My field notebook, half duct tape, half ink, followed. Then the flash drive, small, black, no label. But inside, it held the entire pulse of the base's logistics systems. Every code, every process, every fix I'd built when nobody else was looking. No one ever asked how the systems really worked. They just assumed things showed up on time. Trucks rolled out. Fuel didn't run dry. But it was me who kept the gears clean. And that flash drive, tucked in my pocket, was the only map to the engine room. The security gate didn't blink when I walked through. I nodded to the MP. He didn't look twice. Just another day, another soldier heading out early. They didn't know I wasn't coming back. That the moment the gate clanged shut behind me, I'd taken more than my gear. I'd taken the one thing they couldn't afford to lose. It wasn't revenge, not yet. It was something colder, something steadier, like pulling the fuse out of a machine that no one knew needed rewiring. And I didn't feel proud or angry, just still, because I'd done my part. And now, I was ready to watch what happened when the quiet one stopped fixing things. The morning after I left, I brewed coffee in my own kitchen for the first time in weeks. No uniform, no calls, no check-ins. Just the quiet hum of a laptop and the slow stretch of freedom sinking in. By noon, I'd filed for the LLC DR Ops Solutions. Clean name, clean break. I built the framework in one afternoon. Service menu, rate sheet, intake form. Every system I'd once patched together in the dark was now redesigned for people who'd actually pay attention. I didn't need a team, just a chair that didn't squeak and no one breathing over my shoulder. The emails started rolling in that same evening. Ops reports missing. Delivery schedules thrown off. My replacement CC'd me on a question he didn't even understand. Then texts. "You around? Need your eyes on this." I didn't answer. Not out of spite. Just because I was already somewhere else. I watched it all from a distance. The cracks spreading. The dashboard lighting up red. All the quiet fixes I used to handle before dawn, now piling up for someone who didn't know where the breakers were. They didn't even realize I was gone yet. And that was fine. I wasn't angry, I wasn't gloating, I just felt light, like the weight I'd been carrying for years had finally slipped off my shoulders. I looked at the flash drive again, still there on the desk beside my new logo. This time, if something broke, I'd send an invoice first, and that felt right. Liam started his first week the way you'd expect from a kid who thought logistics meant making content. His desk had a ring light before it had a clipboard. He posted a selfie in my old chair with some caption about leading from the front, but the only thing he was leading was a trail of missed alerts. By Tuesday, he'd confused the red flags on the system dashboard with decorative interface bugs. One of the junior techs asked if the auto-renew scripts had been tested. Liam told them to circle back after his team vision meeting. There was no team. Just a guy who didn't know the difference between a firewall and a flag. When the fuel report failed to upload, no one noticed until the base ran short. The backup generator pinged a critical warning that never made it to the ops feed. I watched it all unfold from my apartment, coffee in hand, email notifications stacking like dominoes. They didn't call me, not yet. Maybe pride, maybe ignorance. Either way, I didn't move. I just kept working on my proposal templates and onboarding guides, watching from the sidelines while the system wheezed. Liam went live that Friday with another video, something about redefining operational workflows. I couldn't help but laugh. He had used the term agility 3 times and didn't realize the supply route alert had already expired. They were trying to fix a machine with hashtags. It wasn't karma, it was just logistics. And logistics, when ignored, never whispers. It crashes. And I wasn't the one reaching for the broom anymore. By the end of the second week, the customs alert system had frozen. Shipments stalled, the server load balance was off by a full margin, and no one knew how to reroute the backup node. The guys on the floor kept refreshing dashboards that didn't work, hoping the answers would show up if they clicked enough times. I didn't step in, not once. I spent that afternoon finalizing my client intake form, making sure every field captured what I used to patch manually. The language was clean, no fluff, no corporate noise, just the right questions that pointed to real problems. Problems I was now charging to solve. Requests came through from old vendors, subtle at first. Checking in, seeing if I might be around to consult. I didn't reply. The silence did all the talking. It said, "I know what broke, I know why it's broken, but I'm not your patch anymore." While the fuel sequencing glitch turned into a facility-wide delay, I built my rate sheet. It wasn't revenge, it was routine. A kind of quiet order I hadn't felt in years. The numbers made sense, the work was real, and for once it was all mine. I didn't feel smug, I felt calm, like someone who had watched the tide go out and chose not to chase the waves. I let the phone buzz, let the emails stack. I wasn't avoiding anything. I had just stopped rescuing people who never asked how things stayed together in the first place. The base woke up late that Monday, not by hours, but by seconds that mattered. The threshold alert script that used to trigger the supply chain check-in had been deleted over the weekend. I used to run that script manually every morning at 4 a.m., without fail. No one had noticed until the trucks were already off course. By the time the discrepancy hit the system, rations were in the wrong sector, fuel was delayed, and medical shipments were flagged as missing. Panic moved fast. Officers scrambled to trace back where it all went wrong, but they didn't even know what they were looking for. My phone buzzed at 8:07 a.m. It was the colonel. He started with a chuckle that didn't land, said there had been a little hiccup. I didn't interrupt. I let him talk, let the desperation fill the pause. Then, when he finally asked if I could step in, I said one word. Unavailable. He stammered, asked if I meant I was busy. I repeated it. Unavailable. I do consulting now. There was silence on the line, the kind that says everything before words even catch up. Then I sent him my rate sheet. No discounts, no apologies, just numbers that matched the weight of the chaos they were sitting in. He didn't argue. Not really. His voice cracked slightly as he said they'd get back to me. I said nothing more. I didn't hang up fast. I didn't need to. The line died on its own. I leaned back in my chair and opened the email from a new client. They needed onboarding support for a logistics platform, real work, clear timeline, solid budget. I hit reply and typed 2 words. I'm available. That afternoon, I read reports of the failed resupply mission. Internal comms leaked about the breakdown. Nobody knew who'd been responsible for maintaining that code, but I knew. And so did they. The fallout wasn't loud. It was steady. Like a slow leak you don't notice until the pressure's gone. They had replaced me with someone they could control, but they couldn't replace what I did, and they definitely couldn't fix what they didn't understand. That day, I didn't raise my voice. I didn't gloat. I just sent one invoice and watched the storm roll in from a distance. The base started to fray from the edges. Vendors pulled out of contracts with no warning. Supply chains froze. The usual flow of fuel, food, and field equipment hit bottlenecks no one could explain. The weekly report dashboard, once clean and color-coded, now blinked red for days on end. One of the medical officers emailed me, not with blame, just confusion. He thought maybe I was on extended leave, maybe I could help. I didn't reply. I wasn't part of their problem anymore. They had cleared my desk to make room for someone louder, someone flashier. Now they were sitting in the dark with no flashlight. I heard through a mutual contact that morale dropped hard. People stopped showing up early. The system we'd spent years refining was now a patchwork of guesses. And still, no one had a full picture of what went wrong. They thought they had replaced me, but they didn't realize the role was never just a title. It was a pulse, and they'd cut it without knowing. Meanwhile, I kept building. DR Ops Solutions picked up its 3rd client by Friday. No promotions, no big pitch deck. Just word of mouth and quiet results. The kind of work that didn't need applause. I filed taxes, designed contracts, onboarded new leads, and drank my coffee without rushing. My inbox was full again, this time with inquiries I wanted to answer. People asked if I had availability. I told them yes, but not because I needed work, because it was work that respected my time. The colonel tried again, a message this time, short. He said he hoped I was well. I was, better than I had been in years. The foundation had cracked. They saw that now. Some even reached out with apologies. Too late, too far gone. They gave away my chair. I gave them the storm. By the end of the month, the unit had been reassigned. The Nephew disappeared from social media. The base listed new hiring notices, like the problem was just a staffing gap. I didn't follow up. I didn't need to. I had already moved on. I sat by the window that evening, watching the rain blur the glass. My coffee was warm, my phone quiet. For the first time in a long while, my mind wasn't trapped in someone else's crisis. It was clear, free, focused on what came next. They used to say I was a cog in the machine, but I wasn't just keeping it running. I was the one who built it. Every alert, every workaround, every quiet save before anyone knew there was trouble. That wasn't luck. That was me doing the work no one noticed until it stopped. Now, I don't need to be noticed. I don't need their titles or their nods. My phone rings because clients already trust me. No ads, no slogans, just results. I was the one who fixed it. And now I'm fixing something better. My company's growing, not fast, but solid. The kind of growth that lasts because it's built the right way. The kind I never saw on that base. I don't miss it. Not the chaos, not the scramble, not the silence after success. I finally have space where good work speaks loud enough. So, next time someone says you're just support, just behind the scenes, ask them this. If the whole thing collapses without you, who's really invisible?